Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dean McPherson. I work with the Toronto Stock Exchange and the TSX Venture Exchange. I am head of global mining for both exchanges. If you might not be aware, but the TSX and the TSX Venture are owned by TMX Group. So the lanyard you see, TMX Group, that's the Toronto Stock Exchange. That's our parent company, TMX Group. Thank you again for coming and spending the afternoon with us, the 20 minutes of the afternoon to learn a little bit more about Argentina. I think you'll find the conversation quite informative. I would like to introduce my panelists this afternoon. Henry, Representative Henry Marsden. I don't know, Henry, if you wanted to introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll ask Nico to do the same.
Sure.
Certainly. So Henry Marsden, Senior Vice President of Exploration. I personally have a long history of in South America and in Argentina. And Yamana has a long history as well in Argentina. We've been there since 2007. And the company has built and operated 2 mines in Argentina. And will continue to be working there extensively in the future.
And my name is Nikolaos. I'm the president and CEO of Blue Sky Uranium, a uranium company in southern Argentina where we've made a very significant discovery. In fact, not just a deposit, but what we believe is an entire district of uranium that has the potential to be very low cost in production and definitely potential to be one of the largest in the world. So. Blue Sky, a member of the Grosser Group company, Grosser Group and myself have been in Argentina, experienced over the last 25, 26 years. Argentina, in our view, is probably the best jurisdiction in the world in which to do business. It's safe. It has got a tremendous amount of potential there. We've made 4 major international discoveries. One of them, I think, Guacamayo, that Yamana just recently transacted. Blue Sky's Amarillo Grande district uranium discovery. We've got Navidad, the world's largest undeveloped silver deposit, and most recently through Golden Arrow, we just put into production in Argentina our Chinchillas silver discovery, which is one of the largest primary silver mines in the world. And what other jurisdiction in the world allows you to have so much geological potential? And we've had no problems and a lot of support all the way through.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. I guess later on we'll drill down a little bit into why you're so positive about Argentina. So I wanted to go into Yamana's projects in Argentina a little bit, Henry. I wondered if you could give us a little bit of update as to what Yamana is doing. I know recently you did an expansion of your Cerro Moro project. Could you talk a little bit about that, and what does that say for Yamana's future in Argentina?
Certainly. So we constructed the Cerro Moro mine last year. The mill was commissioned and operating by late mid-year, by Q3. Project went very smoothly. The project was built on budget, on time, and the company ramped up to full production in the mill within about 3 weeks of commissioning the mill. Very important mine for Yamana. It's an extremely high-grade mine and very good cash flow. And we also own a very large land package around Cerro Moro. We control about 280,000 hectares surrounding the mine. So we'll be doing a lot of exploration over the next 4 or 5 years. And Cerro Moro individually has our biggest exploration budget in 2019. So we'll have a very aggressive program there, trying to increase those high-grade resources. During the year, we also did do the transaction selling Guacamayo. Guacamayo was a great mine for Yamana. It was an open-pit oxide producer. Produced several million ounces at very good cost. However, it was coming towards the end of its life in terms of the known deposit, and production was dropping below the threshold that Yamana likes to see, a minimum about 120,000 ounces a year. The exploration potential on the project is still very good, and Mineros has acquired the project. They'll be reducing production, but having a very, very strong focus on exploration to try to keep the project going and develop new resources for further mining. Meanwhile, we're quite aggressive in Argentina. As Nico mentioned, it's really a great environment to be in, a lot of advantages. And we have some strong generative program that we're running in Argentina, and several new projects, one of which we'll see some drilling on in early 2019 as well.
So we have I was going to ask you about the sale of the Gualamayo, what is it? How do you pronounce Gualamayo project? But we have the buyer here. So, you know that you mentioned this in your opening remarks, Nico. Could you talk a little bit about your views on the mining industry, the exploration industry in Argentina, and what led you to make this decision to acquire this asset?
Well, we didn't acquire the asset. We actually discovered it. I think what is really unique in Argentina is that prior to the early 90s, 93, there hasn't been any professional sort of wide-scale exploration. The country of Argentina, one of the 8th largest in landmass in the world, has seen very limited, if any, exploration. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the opportunity truly lies as an explorer to make some truly large discoveries that are quite apparent, like Gualcamayo that we made back in '96, like Navidad discovery in southern Argentina, and like Blue Sky, to walk upon and to stumble essentially in an entire uranium district that it's unheard of in most jurisdictions. And I think the undiscovered potential in Argentina is probably the #1 most attractive aspect of our decision to remain committed to that country for over a quarter century.
Okay. So we're hearing that the country is mineral rich, geologically rich, and really relatively underexplored. So it begs the question, what's holding it back? What are the challenges here? What's been Yamana's experience, Henry?
I would reiterate Nico's points. It is a wonderful exploration environment. It's one of the few parts of the world where we're still finding walk-up targets, where you see still mineralization on surface, instead of seeking hidden deposits. But it does have its challenges. I think the biggest challenge facing the mining industry is social at this point. There's a considerable, significant parts of Argentina that are still alienated from mining. And historically, it's not a mining country. So when Nico and his guys started exploring there, it was a foreign concept for the communities. It's a foreign idea for them. And I think they still have an exaggerated view both on the risks that are associated with mining and an underestimation of the benefits that come to the communities. You do see this change. We developed really good relationships with the communities in San Juan, and San Juan is now a very, very favorable environment for the mining industry. But there's a lot of states and a lot of areas with enormous exploration potential that we don't have access to. So I think it's really just a matter of continuing to communicate the risk and benefit associated with mining, and really continuing to outreach as a group, as an industry, to try to continue to gain access to those areas.
Nico, you wanted to weigh in on that?
And if I can add to what Henry said, I absolutely agree that Argentina is, because historically has not been a mining country, there isn't that mining culture, and often in different parts of Argentina, you're finding people misunderstand, what the benefits or any sort of adverse effects of mining are. So the way that we've dealt with that is to have a very engaging communication platform with not just members of the government and local and regional, but also with the impacted communities and beyond. Keep a point of view where we're transparent, work closely with them, and that served us really well. We've never had an issue in Argentina. We've never had a permit denied. In fact, we've gone to provinces where governments were essentially elected to be anti-mining, and after a good few conversations, they end up becoming partners with us. So Argentina has just been a great experience for us, and I have nothing much more to add.
No, that's interesting, and I think your comment about the social resistance traditionally in Argentina not being a mining country is important, especially nowadays when we find corporate social responsibility has become such a hot topic in mining. How do you find that playing out in Argentina with that challenge? Do you get support from the government? Yesterday, I went to the Argentina presentation from the Undersecretary for Argentina, and the Macri government seems to be making a very strong effort to get the word out that the government is behind mining, and it's an important pillar in Argentina going forward. Do you find that you're getting support from the government in addressing social issues and moving your projects forward?
Yeah, very much so. We're active, for example, right now in Catamarca with the Aguarica project, and the Catamarca government has been very proactive, both in trying to make sure that we develop the project, we move the project ahead, but also in engaging both local governments and the communities. And I think, as well as Dean has mentioned, the Macri government is extremely favorable towards mining, and has been leaning on the provinces that are currently not accepting mining, Chubut and Mendoza probably in particular, and just encouraging them to recognize mining as the source of revenue that it is. So Macri's really been pushing governments to become more financially independent, and as a result of that, I think we're going to see a lot more consideration of mining as a good source of revenue and income for the governments and for those communities.
Want to add to that, Nico?
Yes, I would agree to that. I mean, in our other sister company, Golden Arrow, like I said earlier in my remarks, we just finished putting into production our Chinchilla silver deposit, and we achieved commercial production just in December. And we saw support coming through, not just through the provincial governments of Jujuy, but also the representatives of the federal government were there to provide all the support that we needed. And these things don't happen without having that support. I think that's good evidence of the government support.
That's good. I was very encouraged to see the government presentation yesterday and seeing the support from the Macri government. Do you guys expect the election that's coming up to impact things going forward? Do you see change in government, or how do you think about that? Do you think that's going to be a factor? Is that going to change the policy?
We certainly hope not, and I personally hope that Macri continues. I think he's a very good government. Hard time for Argentina right now. You have to respect those people are looking at 40% inflation and serious cutbacks to their lifestyle with the subsidies gone. But I think Macri's on a very good path, and I hope he does continue. I think any Latin American government, we were a bit nervous around elections. Well, maybe even a North American government nowadays would be nervous around election time. It's always potential for different candidates with different points of view to come in. But the current government in Argentina is very mining favorable, and I think they're on a strong path towards economic recovery as well.
I would agree with that. I'd say that, the current Macri government is very favorable. It's not just pro-mining, but it's also pro-business. I think it's creating a very a new era of transparency. I understand that Argentina is on board to sign the extractive industries transparency agreement later on this year. I think that goes to show that the government is looking to, send a message out to the world that they're open for business, and definitely pro-mining. Elections, I'm not in the business of predicting outcomes of elections. We do like the current government, but we will always support any outcome of whatever the people want. And we've worked there in the last quarter century, and we've been able to work with all governments, whoever they were, because we see ourselves as guests at the invitation of whichever government is there, and we try to maintain that respect and humility.
Okay, so You know, I've traveled globally as head of mining for the TSX and the TSX Venture, and I hear a consistent theme amongst companies that are operating in Argentina. And companies have always recognized the huge potential of this country and are actually very active in the country in getting there and acquiring assets and properties. And so I find that very interesting because at the same time, investors have not returned. We don't see the investment flow into Argentina that you expect into mining. And so my question to you is why do you think there's that difference, that disparity of operators being there, willing to take the risk, perceived risk, and yet the investors aren't jumping in yet? Why do you think that is so? Why is it investors have not seen what you're seeing, Yamana?
Difficult to say in some ways, but I think the biggest issue probably is considering Argentina as a whole, as Argentina. So when people see that there's anti-mining legislation in Chubut or Mendoza, they then think that that applies to all of Argentina. But Argentina, to starters, is just a huge place. It's a large landmass. It's very varied politically. It's very varied geologically. And it's a huge difference to go from the province of, we're working in Santa Cruz, which is very mining favorable, to San Juan, which is also mining favorable. But the society is very different. The people are very different. They have different sets of values, and they have different objectives. And I think when investors consider Argentina, they shouldn't be thinking about Argentina. They should be thinking about Salta, or they should be thinking about San Juan, Jujuy. What is really the political and social jurisdiction that you're working in? Mm-hmm. And the minute we think of investing in Argentina, it gets painted with the same brush. And really, they're very different places politically and socially.
Very good.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I'd say it's also a very, Argentina has been very misunderstood. I think the lack of sophistication, especially in the early stages of embracing mining and doing things the proper way, has also given investors perhaps a misunderstanding as to how things should be. Argentina, you know, it provides, it wants to welcome people there, and it's going to perhaps send an erroneous message, but that doesn't mean that they're against business or against mining, and that we've seen that time and time again.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very interesting. I've heard that comment about how different the 23 provinces are in Argentina. It's amazing. So, thank you, gentlemen. Before we close off and open up to some questions from the audience, do you guys want to leave anything with the audience in terms of what you perceive as the greatest misconception about doing business in Argentina? From your experiences, is there anything you want to close with? Biggest misconception about Argentina.
Misconception.
Yeah. I put you on the spot there.
Okay. Well, I guess the biggest misconception in my mind that, you know, from talking to investors and vis-a-vis our experience there is, you know, the feedback I get is, oh, it's so difficult to do business there. It's difficult to get permits or licensing, and that's not the case. It's difficult if you don't do things properly. But if you follow the rules and you work closely with locals and you work with the communities, I think anything can be accomplished in Argentina. Mm-hmm. And we've had a very fluid experience there.
Thank you, Henry.
Yeah, I don't think I could really say anything different except similar. San Juan for us has been an extremely positive experience. So we hear about community issues, you hear about regulation issues. We've never had that in San Juan. The community has been great, and we've developed a very close relationship with them. The government has been good, right down to when we had to scale back the mine. In the last 2 years, we had to lay off employees and we had to reduce production. And we worked hand in hand with the government to try to reduce the impact of that on the community. But they understood the need, they understood where we're coming from, and it was a very harmonious and good relationship at all levels.
Thank you. We're almost out of time. Gentlemen, thank you. We have time for maybe 3 questions, if there are any.
With Argentina still a new kid on the block in terms of exploration, what kind of infrastructure is there? Can you actually drive to mineral prospects, or do you have to hire expensive helicopters like northern Canada?
Thank you. It's a very good question.
In general, infrastructure is excellent. It's one of the nice things about working in Argentina. Obviously, you can't drive to all prospects, but there's a good road system, there's a good telephone network, there's good communications, and a highly educated population. So in general, your infrastructure and access in Argentina are excellent.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.